Attention, interruption in Superman travel log detected. Rebooting system.
Glicks, where are we?
Our next sector will be the 1966's New Adventures of Superman. Due to travel log interruption, our journey through the district may be briefer than normal. Full ship functions may not be available.
All right, well, opening comms, let's get started. Okay, what is happening here?
Where are we?
Glicks, give us a situation report.
Currently, we are on the planet Geekery. Be warned, our impossibility drive may cause distortions as we traverse this land. Impending impossibility engaging in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Devoted Geeks, and welcome to episode 58 of Comm Talk, the podcast extension of Geek Devotions, the YouTube show from a couple devoted geeks who are devoted to letting people know that they are loved. I'm Dallas, and with me is...
Celeste! As you listen to this podcast, please interact with us. Send us your thoughts on what we are saying via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can find us by simply looking up Geek Devotions. And do us a favor, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, because that would be pretty awesome.
Absolutely. All right, so if you have been missing out on what's happening, we had a little break. And if you want to know why we had a break, make sure you check out our last podcast, which you can find on most of your favorite podcast catchers, specifically the one you're listening to this podcast on right now.
Yeah.
But also on our YouTube channel and on our website. But that being said, we've been doing this series. We've been traveling through the Superman district, watching a whole bunch of, and discussing a whole bunch of Superman movies. Our TV series, I forgot what it's called. Just
iterations.
Yeah, of Superman.
We've been checking out the iterations of Superman into film.
Yeah, and most of the major ones. And this all started, actually, with our friends over at Retro Rewind podcast.
Yes.
Where we review Superman, like the original 1978 Superman movie. And recently, I've also had an opportunity to guest host, and I reviewed Superman 2 with them.
Yes.
And if you want to check those out, go to retrorewindpodcast.com.
The one that we were both on is episode 166. I do not have the number for the other one.
It's out there. Just type in my name.
Just type in Superman.
Yeah, there you go. And pull it up. And they actually have a review on 1, 2, and 3. So those are really interesting to hear.
The 3 is very interesting because it was before they put into system their new rating. So it's quite
it's different. It's really different.
It's very different.
So, Celeste, what have we done so far? What has Glicks given you?
So far, we have done... Oop, and it left. Come back. So far, we have done Superman serial from 1948. The Max Fleischer Superman.
I like that one.
That one was fun. The Adventures of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And that is all that we have done.
So today, we are in the 60s. And we're talking about the Superman from the 60s. And like we said in the opening, this is going to be a shorter episode. We have our thoughts together, and we're going to talk about it.
We know what our thoughts are.
We know what our thoughts are. So let's talk about this. Let's break this down like we have been doing. And so basically what we're going to do is we ask ourselves, what did we like about the series? Our opinions on the Superman and the Lois, because those are the continual factors in almost every rendition of Superman.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if we have a commercial break. We may or may not.
Depends on how long
this goes. But and then we're going to ask ourselves, is this a good Superman series to recommend to people? So that's what's happening today, guys. So let's get into this. So Celeste, question number 1: What did we like about the series?
Well, what did you like about the series, Dallas?
Well, I appreciated the fact that it was very timely. They worked very hard to place themselves in the time frame, which was, again, the 60s. And there was a little bit of nostalgia stuff going on because I grew up watching like Johnny Quest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a couple other cartoon series that were kind of based in that time period. I remember as a kid, obviously, I didn't grow up in the 60s, being born in 1984.
It would have been difficult.
It would have been very difficult. But these were shows that were on reruns. And I remember many a day in doctor's offices as a kid because I was in there often, watching these on the television. I remember when we had cable it would be on television. And so like it brought that nostalgia feeling to it. I don't know about you, it kind of felt like the old Scooby-Doo.
I'll give you that. And I did appreciate that feel because it did feel like the original Scooby-Doo.
So that's kind of what I liked about it, was the nostalgic feeling. It was definitely placed in that realm.
Right. So I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed the vocal for Superman because it was a very, like, the way he spoke was very self-assured.
Right.
And very, I don't know how to say self-assured any other way other than self-assured, very sure of himself. But like, it just,
he was confident.
He's confident. He exuded confidence.
There's a difference between just being self-assured and having confidence, I think. He wasn't coming off as like haughty, you know, like sometimes there's a character that they're trying to come off as being self-assured or confident, and you're like, okay, you're really annoying.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been delving more into listening to voice acting and narration and things like that. I've started to pick up on things, and I enjoyed the way that actor did that voice.
Yeah, I can see that. Absolutely. All right. So that's kind of what we liked about the series.
Kind of all we liked about the series.
That is all. In case you guys didn't know what our feelings were, we didn't really care for the series. There was a lot that we just didn't like.
It was a struggle.
It was a struggle, and we're going to get into some of the struggles at the last half about when we go to recommend this and why or why not we won't. So what's our opinions about Superman? Let's break down Superman and let's break down the Lois Lane, because again, those are kind of the common factors between every series. You kind of already mentioned you liked his confidence.
Yeah, I liked the way the voice actor portrayed him.
So it's more the voice acting rather than the writing.
Yes, okay. Definitely the acting rather than the writing, because some of the lines he was saying were not my favorite. We're not in that section yet. But just the way he did that. Now, I think that Lois was kind of underplayed in this.
You know, I was thinking about that too. When we were watching it, she was just kind of an awkward plot device, and we didn't see a lot out of her.
It was almost like she was there because they were required to put her there, because how can you have Superman without Lois Lane? Right. But they really didn't want to do anything with her.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's given kind of an unfair advantage. And when we did see her, she was an adventurous person.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
She was definitely on top of things. She had confidence in herself.
She did.
But there just wasn't a lot of her. And I think, again, that's kind of getting into the territory of whether or not we can recommend this series.
Right. Well, Jimmy Olsen played a bigger character in this than she did.
He wasn't he?
He was in almost every episode, you do not see in any of the others.
Right. I didn't think about it. He was in almost every episode.
I'm wondering if they were trying to target a different audience than they were with all of the others, and go for more the father-son, big brother, little brother type thing, rather than play up the romanticism. Because typically when Lois is involved, they play up the romantic side of things.
Right.
That's
really interesting.
If they were gearing it to kids, it would kind of make sense that they would include someone that was supposed to be a kid.
Right. Well, I'm thinking about it. Again, I said at the start of the show that it felt like Johnny Quest and all those. And in the 60s, there was this kind of this, it seems like in the series, this big push for adventurism, for getting out there and for boys, quote unquote, being boys, and having mentorship take place, where there was a father figure mentoring young boys. I think maybe that was a product, maybe done on purpose. I can't say that for sure,
right?
Because I mean, we're looking at a generation that was, lost in a movement of quote unquote free love and everything. I feel like you had a lot of fatherless things happen.
Yeah. Back
in the 60s, you had some that was overbearing, I believe.
Absolutely.
But I'm wondering if that was done on purpose. Because focusing on the relationship between Clark - Superman and Jimmy Olsen was done on purpose, because they were trying to raise up these young men.
Well, and you also have the aspect of that generation was an interesting time for women. It was kind of I'm trying to make sure I don't get my history wrong, but it was kind of the, women, it's okay for women to work, but it's still the mindset of they need to be at home, but it was that awkward time frame where women were more empowered. So it could be that they were trying to focus.
It was the birthing of the empowerment. Like you had the 50s.
Yes.
Where it was definitely your, and you had it in the 60s, obviously, but the 50s, it was like, the woman stays at home. She's the homebody individual. She cooks, she cleans, make sure the house is ready for when the husband comes home. The 60s, again, we had that. You had that shift in a lot of ways. There was a good shifting going on
absolutely.
In society of women empowerment and stuff like that. Of course, you and I know with you and I, our worldview, we see it having gone maybe a little too far in some areas, but you did have this empowerment of women. Yeah. And so,
and what I was trying to get about, I just bumped the mic. What I was trying to get to in the roundabout way is that was still the time frame where the mindset was little girls don't watch Superman. So they may have geared it more towards guys because they thought that the little boys were. I mean, that's the same time frame that Star Trek came out, and they did not realize until after it was already canceled that the main viewership was women. So it would make sense that they would think, okay, this is a boys show because Superman's a boys thing. Like that was the mindset of the time.
Right. Okay, so as far as Superman and Lois, I don't think there's enough material there for us to say our opinion on Lois and where this one ranks. The couple, since we saw her, my personal opinion, she was okay.
What we saw was well done.
Yeah. Whereas in the Superman, he was a confident Superman. Didn't see much Clark.
No, didn't see a lot of Clark at all. And what we did see of Clark was very, shall we say, cocky?
Yeah, a little bit.
Kind of like breaking the fourth wall, grinning about the fact that he's acting so weak.
Right. So I guess the question becomes, how do we rank this Superman and this Lois? I don't feel like it's not fair for us to rank Lois with this one.
I agree.
But with Superman, how would we rank this Superman?
I don't think that he ranks terribly high. Like, I enjoyed the voice acting, but the overall stories, I would not rank him well.
Right.
Now, to be honest, I don't remember what we ranked the other ones. I know that Superman 2 was one of my favorites for Superman.
Superman?
Superman.
You're talking about from 1978?
Yes. The one we did with Retro. So I know that we really enjoyed the Max Fleischer cartoons, and we really enjoyed the Superman in that. But I don't remember our actual decisions.
Yeah. So I'm going to say this, and I know to the dismay of your father who may be listening to this podcast.
I doubt it.
No, he's been listening to a couple of our stuff. But
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I apologize, Dad.
And just because he and I talked about this already.
Oh, okay.
I think this is the worst Superman.
I agree.
It's just the serials was okay. Fleischer was great.
I really enjoyed Fleischer.
I enjoyed the Adventures of Superman. I just don't think this Superman carries. And I want to take that and move that now into our next section, which is, can we recommend this series?
Is this the part where we get to talk about our dislikes?
Yes, because
I
have to qualify why I'm making him the least of the Supermen. And so, since you are like just beaming with excitement,
I just am tired of saying what I liked about it because there wasn't much, and so I'm having to stretch to think about it.
Well, tell me, dear, what did you not like about this?
Oh my God, the writing. It was so bad. Like, and one of the things I did enjoy is they did more sci-fi stuff, which Superman has always included, but at the same time, they didn't include enough of the normal Superman stuff, like the everyday Superman stuff.
It was definitely more sci-fi fantasy based.
And so the writing was just terrible when he's punching a pterodactyl and calling it Terry Baby. I mean, come on now.
That was quite, again, but that is a product of the time period. Like his language, his vocabulary, the way that he approached things, it was trying to speak, or the writers were trying to speak to a younger audience at the time, to that generation. And they would use that kind of like that swagger, if you will. Because it wasn't just like Terry Baby. It was like, come along with me, Terry Baby. I mean, it was just like that swinger. He's like, hey, groovy.
It was just very odd to hear coming from Superman. Yeah. It's one thing if it's a character that is just set in the time. It's, the characters around Superman. Superman is supposed to stay pretty constant. And then the stories were just not terribly interesting.
They were, and that's one of the things that made us judging this difficult. For those of you who don't know, every episode was broken up into sections. Again, You have to remember the time period and the way that the cartoons were. It was like, here you have a 30-minute episode, but then you have like a 10 to 15-minute short. Like the previous serials, nothing was connected. But at the same time, it felt even more disjointed than anything we had seen before, in my opinion. I don't know. Max Fleischer, no episode ever connected to each other. And especially after the Fleischer Studios closed down and they had the other studio take over, it was really out there, but it still felt more cohesive somehow than this series.
This series, I think, was really created to catch kids. It was directed at kids that may or may not stay for the whole episode, or they may come in the middle of an episode because of when they get home from school, or they may not be allowed to watch TV, so they're going to miss stuff. It felt like kind of like but it wasn't even as cohesive. I was about to say it felt like the old Scooby-Doos because they were not necessarily built upon each other, but even those felt more cohesive than this. It just felt off.
It really did. And I think it's the tone change from episode to episode. Or not from episode, from like portion to portion episode.
Yeah.
One episode you'd have like these random aliens who are coming to attack. The next episode you'd have Lex Luthor, which I did appreciate. This is the first time you had Lex Luthor. You had Brainiac and a couple other characters jump in. But you'd had them like Lex Luthor one episode. Like again, you had aliens, and then the next episode, Luthor is made a time machine to talk to Merlin to get magic to do stuff or to become a little kid, so that Superman doesn't know that it's Lex Luthor robbing banks.
Yeah. So and.
It was just so random.
And I had a thought and then it left while you were talking about that.
Well, while you think about it, another aspect that bugged me, it expected you just to know things.
That was what it was. Okay. Because you said Brainiac and it made me remember that.
We'll go on that.
It expected you to know who Brainiac was. They're like, oh my gosh, it's Brainiac 5 again. And like we looked and he hadn't been in any of the Superman on film before. So they expected you to have been reading the comics.
Yeah. And that was the thing, like I thought, well, maybe did because we didn't watch all of the Adventures of Superman, which was the live action. I was like, was he in that? This is the new Adventure Superman. He's in that. So I went through the entire catalog. No mention of Brainiac. This is his first time appearing anywhere on screen. And they're like, oh, he's back. And they're mentioning like these super beings that have sent him off to like create an arc and stuff like that. Like we should just know that.
Yeah. Like they highly expected you to have read the comics rather than just be sitting down and watching this show.
But again, we actually had Brainiac. We had actual characters.
I will give it that.
From the actual comic. So that's a bonus to it. So I guess the question becomes, can we in good faith recommend this to individuals?
I'm going to say probably not.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things of if you are a completionist or if you enjoy that time frame in cartoons with an understanding of it's not even as good as Tom and Jerry. Like, I would rather sit down and watch Tom and Jerry.
Do you feel like it's this way because you and I are looking for a complete story? Now, keeping in mind, Adventures of Superman didn't have major story arcs. Max Fleischer didn't have major story arcs, but we had definite opening and closers for episodes. Fleischer, one episode was 15 minutes. That was it. Go on to the next episode. Does the fact that, are we struggling because this is hey, here's one episode, but there's 3 stories that have nothing to do with each other in one episode?
I don't think so. Because I watched cartoons like that as a kid, and I enjoyed them. And I would still enjoy them now. Maybe mostly because of nostalgia, but I don't think, it's not like I'm unfamiliar with that format. So I think it's just that the way it was done was so odd that it makes it very off-putting.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that. I mean, if you're a completionist, check it out. If it's on TV and for whatever reason and you have nothing else to do, it's interesting for the fact that you get a look into history.
Yeah.
As far as the way they saw things, especially now that you and I are thinking about the fact that it seemed like it was definitely geared towards young boys. And maybe if it's like for a little kid, I would recommend this for a parent who's like, hey, you got little kids, and
absolutely,
and they're just kind of hanging out. Maybe it's whatever.
Because there's nothing inherently wrong with them except for maybe some of the character designs on 1 or 2, and that's just a kid wouldn't pick up on that. So,
all right, so that's our suggestion for this one is it's not good. It's okay. It's definitely seems like it's geared towards a younger audience than previous renditions. You didn't have random stuff. It didn't seem as political, at least from what we saw of it.
It didn't. Now, we only watched the first 7 episodes. There was
we are very removed.
Yes. There was a slight hint of politicalness, but my little brother is from Taiwan, so I notice certain things because I am more attuned to it.
Right.
So some of the bad guys looked Asian.
Yeah, like that was almost purposely drawn. Like
Asians.
Like, why are all the aliens Asian? Like, it was kind of awkward at times.
It was.
Now you're saying that, I do remember that.
So, but at the same time, it wasn't blatantly political like the ending of Max Fleischer cartoons, where it wasn't Max Fleischer.
Where it was definitely much more like, hey, we're going into a war.
Like, I would let our future kids that are non-existent at the moment watch this before I'd let them watch Barney. So, I mean, that's something.
That is something. All right, well, from Geek Devotions, Comm Talk by Geek Devotions, we're going to say, if you're just bored or you got little kids, don't watch it. Not worth your time. Sorry, guys. Now, if you're nostalgic about it, check it out.
Do it.
It's your thing, man. We do, before we wrap this up, we'll remind you guys, these episodes are brought to you by Devoted Patreon Geeks. If you want to be a Devoted Patreon Geek for as little as $1 a month, you can support what's happening here at Geek Devotions. Just go to patreon.com/Geek Devotions or go to geekdevotions.com, click on support, and it shows actually a couple of ways that you can support what we're doing here at Geek Devotions. Any other announcements we need to make, Celeste?
I think we are good. We're not necessarily next month on Geek Devotions, we're going to have another interruption to the Superman District.
Yeah.
We're going to have Extra Tuesdays are going to be special. The devotions are going to be special. And that is because we are having a themed month. Ooh. It is going to be Gotham City Gospel, brought to you by the School of Ministry of the Healing Place.
Yeah. I'm super excited about it. School of Ministry is they're based out of our church, the Healing Place, here in Shreveport, Louisiana. And every year, we take them for a few months. We teach them about what we do. We walk them through the process. We talk about the philosophy behind what we do, about using social media, using outlets like podcasts and YouTube and everything to reach out to people. And we're not trying to make them geeks.
Nope.
But we're trying to equip them so they can reach their own people group, the people that they connect with on a regular basis.
So I believe last year's was Anime April.
Oh, yeah.
And then the year before that was May Movie Madness, which was a lot of fun. And you can tell that it's definitely evolved. Like the last 2 years have not involved Comm Talk, but this year we are including Comm Talk. So we're going to get a debriefing from the students to see what it was like from their end.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see into their world as you watch their devotions. They did a fantastic job.
I'm excited to watch them. I got to edit them still, but because I wasn't here when they did. I was in the Philippines, so I'm really excited about this.
So it was really good. That last one, the pizza guy showed up though, so it's going to take some editing.
All right. Well, I think that's it. Obviously, guys, I want to encourage you to check out our website, geekdevotions.com, for basically everything we have. Our devotions, our Extra Tuesdays, articles we have written. Here in a couple of weeks, we have an article that's going to be a review about a new study Bible is coming out that we had an opportunity to do a review on. So I'm excited about that. And of course, we have Celeste's review on Taste and See, which is a really cool book that made Celeste hungry all the time.
All the time.
And
also made me want to go to Texas and take Steakology 101.
And we also have a review on the new Ultraman that just came out on Netflix.
Ultraman.
That was so good.
So good.
We'll talk about that another day.
That's a podcast for another day. We should record that podcast and put it in the can and let it sit until we need a podcast.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's a really good idea.
All right, well, let's close this up, Celeste.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to Comm Talk today. If you have loved this episode, head on over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It is very much appreciated. So until next Sunday, stay devoted.
Peace and love.
Happy Easter.